You guys have really enjoyed my S tier consistent loadouts lately, so I decided to do a part 2 video. So in this video, we're gonna have 3 more S tier survivor builds based around Deja Vu, but also I wanted to utilize and feature a couple amazing consistent perks that actually didn't make the cut in my first episode. Just because I had my top 3 S tier consistent builds didn't mean that I used all the perks that are really consistent. And when I talk about consistency in Dead by Daylight, I'm talking about perks that have a really good uptime, that give you consistent values in matches. I'm not talking about these hypothetical amazing perks like Unbreakable or like Deliverance or like Decisive Strike that don't always get you value, but when they do, they're really great. I'm talking about perks that are just always on, always help you play the game well, and always give you consistent amount of value in any game of Dead by Daylight, which really increases your chances of having better games against all killers. So let's hop into it, guys. 3 more S tier consistent builds based around Deja Vu. Now, why am I basing all these around Deja Vu? Well, Deja Vu is basically a staple perk once you start using it. Of course, you don't need it, and if you're a veteran player, you probably know where all the gens are and it's not as important to you, but for the average player base, like I'm talking about like 80-90% of you guys out here, this perk is amazing because you're probably not a DBD fanatic. You probably get on, you play some games, or maybe if you are a fanatic, this perk is still amazing. Like I have over 1,000 hours in DBD, and Deja Vu gets me a ton of value every single game I use it because it does 2 things beautifully. 1, shows you the aura of the 3 generators that are closest together, which means if you prioritize those gens, you will not get 3 gen. I talk about this all the time. What's the 3 gen? It's when the last 3 generators left in a match are the 3 generators that are closest together, which makes it really easy for the killer to defend, and you will lose games you would have otherwise won. But because you see the 3 closest gens all the time, if you prioritize doing those, you will stop yourself from getting 3 gen. And in the end game, you will have 3 generators that are beautifully spaced apart, so that way you're not pressured and you don't lose these games. Second thing Deja Vu does is it gives you a 6% repair speed for doing the gens you're supposed to be doing. Oh my god, this is amazing. Not only do you prevent yourself from losing games you shouldn't be losing, you also get a 6% repair speed bonus to doing those gens, which will prevent you from getting 3 gens. So 2 amazing things. But the third thing, and probably the greatest thing about Deja Vu, is it takes away the guesswork from figuring out where the gens are. Like if it's an outdoor map, maybe you see the gens, not as big a deal, but on the indoor maps, this is a huge deal because you don't have to waste any time looking for gens. You can go straight to the objective, and it helps you be so much more efficient with this game. Like I feel like, I don't want to say Deja Vu should be base kit, but when you start using it on all your loadouts, it basically feels like base kit, and it's just like the bread and butter of perks. Like there is no perk in my, honestly, for me as like a casual DBDer, like there's no perk that's better to me. Like Deja Vu, if I'm not using Deja Vu in a loadout, I'm usually not having a good time. But when I'm using Deja Vu, I'm having great games. So all these builds are gonna have Deja Vu, and hopefully this explanation has shown you why it's so great. So now let's get on to build number 1. 2 perks in this build that didn't make the cut for my last episode. Not because they're not amazing, but because I could only do 3 builds in that episode. The Windows of Opportunity, guys, is a really great perk, and it's consistent and it's active all the time. This will show you all vaultable locations, breakable walls within a 32-meter range, as well as pallets. This turns a shitty looper into a decent looper into a good looper into a great looper into a god looper into an insane S tier Mechatron Pacific Rim Kaiju motherfucking amazing looper. Like trust me, this perk is a beautiful perk because even if you're not good at looping, because you have windows, you can see where the vault locations are at and you can see where the pallets are at. So you can at least chain pallets 100% easier, and you can stall a lot of time while in chase to give your teammates time to heal up or do generators. So even if you're not good at the game, Windows Opportunity makes you decent at the game. And if you're decent at the game, Windows makes you good at the game. Windows is a really great perk. Does it really do too much? No, it just shows you the auras, but because you can always see which pallets have been used, which pallets haven't been used, and where the vault locations are at, it helps you loop a lot better, and it helps you go places that are safe instead of running into dead ends and just really running around like a chicken with your head cut off. So Windows Opportunity, guys, insanely amazing perk that helps you extend chase by a long time. But not only are we using Windows, we're using Kindred. So many of you guys who watched my first video were complaining that I didn't include this perk. And it's only because I personally have been enjoying Bond a lot more, but Kindred is also an amazing perk. Just because I didn't post it on that video doesn't mean it's not S tier and it's not consistent. Kindred will activate every time a survivor is hooked. Now, When a survivor is on the hook, the killer's aura will be revealed to you within 16 meters, but it will also be revealed to other survivors. This helps uncoordinated teams figure out who's closest to the hook, who needs to go for the rescue, which direction the killer's going. The implications for this in-game are endless. I will let you put 2 and 2 together, but there's a lot of power in knowing where the killer's at and where the killer is going after a survivor's hooked, as far as who needs to go get the rescue, who's closest to the hook. But also, if so basically, guys, Kindred is an amazing perk. When you're on the hook, your teammates get a ton of intel as far as the killer's whereabouts and what's going on with all the other survivors. But also, if someone else is on the hook, Kindred will still activate, but it'll only activate for you personally. You'll see the killer's aura, you'll see where everybody else is at, so this will help you play a lot better. It doesn't always apply for the whole team, but even though it's still a really good and solid perk. So use Kindred or use Bond. I explained why I think Bond's amazing. Choice is yours. My DBD VC. And the last perk on this build, guys, is Lithe. Because we have windows and we don't have to search for vault locations, Lithe is like the icing on the cake in this build. A lot of times I do prefer Sprint Burst, but if you want, you can use Lithe. This perk activates every time you do a vault. You'll get a speed boost for 3 seconds, help you extend the chase, help you get somewhere safe, etc, etc. Nothing much more to really explain about this other than Lithe is a great perk. And let's go into build number 2. Build number 2, guys, a giant Deja VU toolbox build. Bring a Commodious toolbox with 32 charges. Bring wire spools. Bring scraps. 8, 12, 20 extra charges on this toolbox. Bring build to last. This will let you recycle your toolbox 3 times by hiding in a locker for 12 seconds. Each time you'll get 99% of your charge back the first time. Second time you'll get 33% less, so 66. And the last time 33%. So all in all, this will let you use this big ass toolbox basically 3 times. Now we're bringing Streetwise as well, because this will decrease the item consumption rate of our toolboxes by 25%, and this also works for our allies and their items as well. We're not that preoccupied with that, but the cool thing about Streetwise is that this toolbox, which already lasts a long time, like I'm telling you guys, like this toolbox setup can get 55-60% of a gen done. You bring Streetwise and you get 25% extra charges on top of this. This toolbox will literally last such a long time. Like you will basically be able to use this toolbox for almost the entire gen. I think it's like 80-85%. Trust me, it feels good. You're doing gens 50% quicker. You're destroying them with this toolbox that doesn't even use up any charges. And on top of that, this recent patch, they actually increased your sabotage speed of Commodious toolboxes. So this build is going to be actually a bit stronger than it was last patch. It was already good last patch, but now you can even use your toolbox to sabotage hooks. And the fact that you have so many charges, you'll always have a toolbox for doing gens. You'll always have a toolbox for sabotaging hooks. This is a sick build. Do not sleep on this build. Again, Deja VU, I explained why, but the best part about this build is that we have this toolbox set up and we get these refills, so we can just run around and just do so much work on these gens. Like, if you're the only person doing gens, like, this build will definitely carry and help out in those games where not a lot of teammates are doing gens. And then the last perk is Sprint Burst, because all we want to do, we have something for chase. But basically, my whole idea with this build is you're going to sprint burst, you're going to run to the gen, you're going to do your first gen, you're going to finish that gen, you're going to go into a locker, you're going to get your toolbox charges back, then you're going to go to the second gen, then you're going to go get the third gen, rinse and repeat. And if the opportunity to sabotage a hook and save a teammate comes your way, well then by all means, do it. And now the last build, guys, a little bit different from our other builds. We're bringing a camping aid kit, gel dressing, and bandages because we want 2 full heals out of this med kit, and I'll explain later. 1, Deja VU. I told you why we're rocking Deja VU, but we're actually bringing Alert. Alert is a really great perk that's slept on. Whenever a killer performs a break action, which will happen a ton of times, whether they're breaking pallets, breaking walls, whenever they kick a gen, you will get an alert and a noise notification, and you will see the killer's aura for 5 seconds, assuming they're not a stealth killer. But for the killers that aren't stealth, this perk is amazing because you can be doing your Deja VU gens. Every time the killer breaks anything, they're in chase, they break a pallet, you'll see where the killer's at, you'll know if you're safe, you'll have a lot of intel where the killer's at. If they kick a gen somewhere, you'll see them and you'll see what gen they're kicking, so you'll know you need to go stop it from regressing. Again, the implications for your games with Alert, kinda limitless. But this is a great perk for a lot of intel on the killer that not a lot of people use, and I don't see why. Like, it's a fun perk, it's a solid perk, it gives you a lot of intel. It lets you play the game better, and who doesn't want to play DBD better? Now we're actually bringing Resilience with us. Resilience is consistent, but you have to be injured, and there will be times where you're injured, especially after you get hooked. When you're injured, you will do a lot of things. You will repair 9% quicker, sabotage 9% quicker, heal 9% quicker, unhook, totems, you name it, exit gates 9% quicker. Now this is fun because whenever we're injured, we can actually go do a Deja Vu gen and do it 15% quicker instead of 6% quicker, which will save us a few seconds off gens. But the reason why I said we want to bring a med kit with us is because what we want to do is we really want to milk this. Whenever we're injured, we're going to play a little risky, but what we want to do is we want to use our med kit and heal up and get our health to 99%. And then when we're at 99%, we want to just work on gens, and we want to do gens 15% quicker, so we're shaving off that time. And if the killer's coming to us, or we hear the killer's terror radius, we'll top off with the med kit, heal up all the way, so that way we don't risk getting down super easily. And this is like a foolproof solution to do whenever you bring resilience in a med kit, especially with Deja Vu. So that way you can milk that Deja Vu speed and heal yourself up if the killer's coming to you. Now the last perk with this build is off the record. Why do I like off the record with the setup? Well, two things. Off the record does help you avoid getting tunneled. Whenever you get unhooked, for 80 seconds you will not reveal your aura to the killer. Your grunts of pains are reduced by 100%, so basically old Iron Will. And you'll get the endurance status effect. Now, endurance status effect means you can take a hit for up to 80 seconds, and instead of going down, you will go into deep wound. So if you're getting tunnel off the hook, this at least gets you one more hit. Now what I like to do with off the record is if I'm not getting tunnel off the hook, I just go straight and I start working on a gen with resilience and Deja Vu. So I'm doing it 15% quicker, and I have that nice 80-second window where even though I will disable the endurance by touching a gen, I will still not be making any grunts of pain, and my aura still will not be revealed to the killer. Those two effects still stay active, even if you do a conspicuous action and deactivate the endurance with off the record. So it's fun to get off, go work on gens, or go 99 your health somewhere, and then that way you're extra safe when you're working on the gens because you're still blocked with your aura and you're still not making grunts of pains. Granted, you don't have the endurance, but that's not that big of a deal. This is just a fun little cheeky build. Like I said, the name of the game is consistency and using perks that have a very high uptime and will activate it guaranteed a few times per trial. And most of these, actually all of these, should activate at some point during just normal gameplay. So guys, if you liked that video, smash the like button and subscribe to the family if you're not already part of the family. What are you waiting for? Have an amazing day. Don't forget to smile. Likes, comments, which is your favorite build. Deja Vu is awesome. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.